Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to ZombPocalypse podcast. This episode, I'm with my buddy of mine, Brandon. He shares his experience with the paranormal. One of his stories he shares is about his grandma. This one's just a little more personal because it's not scary, it's more emotional. He shares his story about how him and his father got a strange call from his grandma. But I won't go into much into detail because I want you guys to hear it and experience it yourself. So here it is. My buddy Mike shares his story. Please enjoy.
So, my great-grandmother passed away, and my father wasn't really a superstitious or religious type person, and they're just kind of weeks after her passing, my father and my grandmother are just sitting in her home with her old cell phones and just kind of going through her stuff and deactivating everything. And the home phone starts ringing. An unknown number. So my father picks it up, answers it, and he just says hello, and then listens for like 3 minutes, and he just starts crying, and he hangs up the phone and says it was my deceased great-grandmother, and that he was having a conversation with her, and that she can't quite remember what she said, but something along the lines, something that turned him religious, extremely religious.
Seriously, like super duper religious?
Extremely religious. Goes to church, he's in Bible study, like the whole nine.
And you don't know what was said over the phone?
He said it about 5 years ago, and I can't remember what it was, but it's something that changed his life. And he was for sure that it was her.
But do you feel that it was a real story that he told you? Would you think that he would fake it just to get attention?
I was there with him. Whether or not it was her, I am not sure. But if it was something to get attention, it wouldn't be an act that he would be continuing to put on. Because he's still religious to this day. He still goes to church every day and reads the Bible. And
honestly, that's pretty flippin' amazing. I mean, I've never heard anything like that. Like, I'm sure you told the story before to me, but that must have been a long time ago.
Yeah, usually when you hear something, it's more of a horror story, not Long Island medium.
That's really insane. Honestly, if that ever happened to like my family members, I'd be kind of like flipping out too. I mean, what if that happened to you? How would you react? But the thing is, I just wish that he would have told you what happened, like what your great-grandmother said. That's the thing.
I don't know what she said. I don't know why he's holding on to it, but it has to be for a reason.
Yeah, gotta be. The only thing I can think of, maybe on his deathbed he may say something to you, but who flippin' knows, you know?
She was supposed to be, so before she passed, she was in a hospital bed. She was not able to talk, and they brought her home. I forgot what that's called, but she had an in-house nurse that would come over every once in a while and take care of her. And they gave her 6 or 7 days left to live, no food or water, just to perish in her own home. And she made it 14 days.
Wow.
So twice what they said she was gonna live. And then she spoke a few times, and she wasn't supposed to be able to talk. And she told me that I was her favorite grandchild, and that was really fucking rough for me. Sorry, don't know if I'm allowed to swear or
Yeah,
not.
you're able to. You're able to swear.
But that was really rough for me, and
Mm-hmm.
it still is, because she was like my second mom.
Right.
And she wasn't supposed to be able to talk. She was supposed to be like final hour. And she spoke to me and my father, and then the very next day she passed.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Thing is, maybe it's just one of those,
Like a final wind.
Yeah, like a final wind, a final wish, like the final word that a person will want to say. That's just kind of like what happened with my grandma before she passed. She was dying of colon cancer, and unfortunately the colon cancer, she was too weak to get chemo and whatever, and the cancer moved up to her lungs, and she was pretty much like done for. And the last 3 days of her life, she perked up, acting like herself, talking and stuff like that, like nothing was wrong. And the last day before she passed, she was like the same. It's just like, I felt like those last 3 days we just wanted to remind us that she's going to be fine, she's going to be okay, and we want to remember her like a happy-go-lucky woman, a strong woman like she was, and how we were going to remember her by. So I'm thinking with your great-grandmother, pretty much want to say her last words to you, what she always wanted to say, and let her go by peace.
See, and I would have said the same thing if she didn't have a stroke during open heart surgery that made her brain dead.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it kind of gets a little outside of normal for me.
Right. That's
because she wasn't supposed to have any function
mm-hmm.
other than basic breathing.
Right. That's honestly, that's a pretty nuts. Honestly, I'm kind of stunned by hearing that. I mean, I've never heard anything like that before, and let me tell you, I heard a lot of strange stories throughout my lifetime. My other experience I had was when my friends told me when I was in 7th grade. I don't know if he was, of course, when you're in junior high school, you try to act cool and stuff like that, and I honestly don't remember his name. I think his name was Kevin or something. He didn't live in Rapids for very long, but he said he was living in a house, and he believed that his house was haunted because a preacher used to live there back in the 1900s, and saying that the preacher was doing like black magic and all that shit, and pretty much going against his religion. You know how you hear some preachers or priestess frickin' doing some ungodly ways.
Following the dark side.
Basically, yes. And so the preacher died supposedly in that land or in that house before it was rebuilt, and his spirit still lives there. And pretty much between 12 and 3 o'clock in the morning, it makes noise and makes itself known. Kind of like from the basement, you hear footsteps, noises, shit moving around, shuffling. And one night he told me that he opened the door up and he saw 2 glowing red eyes. And he shut the door and ran upstairs to his room.
So, glowing red eyes, that sounds a little too Hollywood.
This is what I'm thinking. Of course back then when you're young, you don't when you get introduced into that type of stuff, you really don't know what was real, what's not. You know?
Yeah, yes, but see, that's the thing. As a kid, you have a very active imagination, and I know as a kid personally, I didn't want to sleep in my bedroom because apparently my parents tell me that I saw clowns in the window.
What?
Yeah, I didn't want to sleep in my room apparently because I saw clowns at nighttime through the first and only story through my bedroom.
That's fucked.
Yeah, apparently I didn't want to sleep there because clowns. And that was an odd thing because, I mean, odd but not odd. The first movie I ever bought as a child was Stephen King's It.
Yeah.
And that's a horror movie based off a space clown.
Yeah, because isn't like basically
He's
his.
more of a symbiote feeding off of fear, but yeah.
Yeah, so basically, well, what about Stephen King? We're not trying to get off too much subject here, but I know what I've heard that Stephen King writes his books off of his dreams and some experiences that he had throughout his lifetime. But who knows?
I mean, I could see that.
But that's what I've heard through an interview years ago. I know The Shining was based off of an actual hotel that he stayed at, and his experiences that happened there. Well, of course, it's over dramatic to make it more scarier, but that's just pretty much the basic shit that he went off on.
Oh, of course, that an artist or a filmmaker would take iconic things from places he's been or things he's done and put it in a film and maybe embellish some things for Hollywood's sake to make it more of a story.
Right.
But how far it goes, I don't know, of all of it being true.
But I don't think he actually wrote a true story about his own experiences, so I think it's just mainly, of course, fiction. Well, he mainly writes fiction stories. Maybe we'll talk about Stephen King some other podcast. He's one of my favorite book writers.
Oh, don't get me going. The Green Mile, Pet Cemetery.
Dude, Pet Cemetery scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, the old one by far was way scarier than the two-part one. But
even the new one too, the remake. Ugh. Okay, we're definitely get off subject, but let's touch it really quick. Have you seen the new Pet Cemetery?
I have not. I've only seen maybe elongated trailers.
Okay, as you know, you know it's different.
Yeah, a bit different.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, a lot of people change movies and stories to go with the time.
Okay.
But I mean, I'd really have to watch it, see the differences to tell you whether or not that they're good or bad changes. And then still, that's just one person's opinion.
Right. Pretty much, it's not much different. Not to do some spoilers, it does follow the same outline of the movie. Instead of Gage getting killed, the daughter gets killed. And, of course, the father is overstricken by grief, buries his daughter in the Indian ground, sour soil.
So they changed little boy passing to little girl passing. And then, if I'm not mistaken, isn't the father the actor from the movie We're Supposed to Talk?
I didn't realize that John Lithgow was part Pet Cemetery. His makeup was so good, you couldn't even tell. Anyways, he definitely got off subject.
Oh, just a bit.
So what other experiences that you had with some ghosts or the undead?
So, undead. Now that's one I'm still waiting for. Paranormal wise, not much. Just some really bad dreams that kind of scarred me for life.
All right,
As a child, that is. I mean, you remember in, I want to say, Electra, the movie. You remember how there, spoilers by the way, that there was the ninja that killed Electra Nachios' father.
Mm-hmm.
And how he took on this demon form to her childlike imagination.
Mm-hmm.
That figure haunted my dreams, and growing up I wasn't rich or anything. We lived in a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was walking down the hallway, and for some reason I reached around the dark room and hallway, reached around to turn on the light switch, and something grabbed my hand, and across from my room was the back door, and the lock on the back door didn't work. It was just a latch and eye hook.
Oh, man.
And grabbed my wrist, and I screamed, and my parents didn't hear me, and it took me out the back door. That was my nightmare. And from then until like 22, I was afraid of the dark.
When I was talking to Cody, I admitted that I was afraid of the dark. I'm not afraid of the dark, I'm afraid of what's in the dark.
Things that go bump in the night?
Basically. I don't need a nightlight on or anything else like that. If I'm in the countryside, and if there's like no light, I'm like, fuck that. Fuck that noise. Because I've had close encounters with shit. I mean, I was outside and what was I doing? I think I had to take a piss, and my stepdad told me to put some firewood in the furnace, and it was winter. And when you walk out there, there's a barn off to the left and the garage off to the right. And what I was explaining too, with the garage is more like a barn with a loft, and it's like a thing you put hay in. There's like a staircase, and you can go upstairs and shit. And you look straight out, and there's a field. I saw something big, and something white, and something furry.
Abominable snowman.
No, it wasn't that. The abominable snowman. It was fucking. I don't know what the hell it was.
Hey, want a snow cone?
No, it was not. No, I saw it. I turned and I ran. I freaking ran. I went through the door, and my mom was like, and my stepdad was like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I saw something white and something big and something furry." On the nonchalant, like they like, "Oh, it must have been a wolf." Yeah. And of course, my stepdad, being a smart ass he is, like you said, "Oh, it's the abominable snowman." Yeah. Let me tell you, not again.
I mean, I haven't had any abominable snowman or Yeti or Bigfoot encounters, even living in Washington. No Bigfoot encounters. I've had a lot of cougar encounters, a lot of coyotes, but never any Bigfoot. My grandmother swears she saw Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
But no, nothing like that. And I live an hour away, or not even an hour, like 35 minutes away from the famous Bigfoot picture.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and no Bigfoots around here.
Well, this is Wisconsin, dude, so bound to be like bears and deer and
Canadian
wolves,
creatures.
coyotes. Canadian creature, my ass. More like Wisconsin creatures. But I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just living, I love the countryside, I love living out there, and I would love to live back out there again. When my fiance and I was camping out there, I was kind of like having a little bit a freak out at one point because I heard like not footsteps, more like something walking around, is probably like deer or whatever, or the cats or something. So like I said, yeah, I'm just I'm not afraid of the dark, I'm afraid what's in the dark, like you said, bumps in the night. So
Oh man, I've always been hoping for something more. Vampires, werewolves, that's all cool and fine. That's typical, oh, things that go bump in the night, just as long as they don't sparkle and shine.
yeah. I mean,
But
I will accept those. I mean, I'm like, ah, oh, cool. You are real.
I was hoping for a little more, but hi. Things that I would hope that go bump in the night. Hope but not hope, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like old legends, like Wendigos and stuff like that.
Dude, if Wendigos were real,
Like,
man.
what if that was the Chupacabra? That would make total sense.
Mm-hmm. Man,
Like, urban legends and lore, that's things that I hope for. Things that are on, like, Supernatural.
yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a legend around in Stevens Point called the Boy Scout Road. The legend about it that a Boy Scout club was out in the woods over there, and they got lost and they died out there. And if you're out at night on that road, if you have your lights off and stuff like that, if you watch the road, you'll see this Boy Scout group crossing the road. My buddy and I had a little fire up our asses and wanted to see that happen. Of course, we went out there and we sat there for a good couple of hours and nothing happened. But this is the fun part. We were driving back home. Something big, something white, flew down, went by his windshield, flew back up. Both of us screamed like little bitches. And he pulled over like, what the fuck was that? We were kind of freaking out. We came to a conclusion it was a big ass owl. Because if you think about it, it was big, it was white, and of course some owls are white, and their wingspans are huge.
Or a Canadian goose. That's
True.
a big flying.
Yeah, I could have. Who knows?
I did. Or trying to put law behind it.
You want to repeat that again because you cut out a little bit.
If we're trying to behind it, it could have been a goose or a swan or something of that nature.
Yeah, well, when you're trying to ghost hunt and something that happened, yeah, you're gonna scream like a little bitch.
Oh, of course. Of course, who wouldn't?
I might
But
be.
getting into big flying things and something that sparked my memory, I guess, would be Lost Tapes, old show that used to be on for you or viewers, was a supposed lost tape find of recordings or discarded security footage from Colombia and stuff like that, of things that go bump in the night or things that aren't supposed to be alive anymore. So there was one about like a creature that looked like something from the 90s show Gargoyles. Or and these guys were in like Costa Rica or something like that, walking around in the woods next to a skate park, and they saw something fly by, and they're like, "Oh!" And then there's a video footage of this black figure with at least a 14-foot wingspan, and it's like a person figure, and it comes down and knocks them over and stuff. It's real interesting. Some of it's believable, some of it's not. There was one of a warehouse somewhere like South America or somewhere foreign. And there was a good 40-foot snake just slithering past things, and then all of a sudden people start speaking in a language and panicking, looking for this crate that's open.
What?
Yeah. And then all you see is this thing that's like, oh man, the size would be hard to put at least as wide as a queen size mattress. Slithering through this warehouse facility, and all this warehouse facility has in it is sketchy boxes. Like Area 51 sketchy boxes.
What the fuck?
It's a really interesting show. I encourage you to at least check it out on YouTube.
Okay.
Different stages of horror throughout people's life or something. Like, but something scary to one person might not be scary to another.
Right. Well, I got a story I would like to read.
Yeah.
Ooh. It's from it's from the Facebook page True Ghost Stories. His name is David. I'm not gonna post his full name. He's a truck driver. Says, I'm a truck driver and believer in spirits, but I've yet to see anything beyond belief. Until last night, about 2:45, sitting at a crossroads. I sat at the red light looking at my paperwork. I had blues tunes rolling out the radio. When it dimmed suddenly, I heard a voice. Suddenly, Robert James Johnson at the crossroads started to play. I looked up, and a man seemed to appear out of the dark, an older black man, looking worn and tired. He wore a black suit and a fedora with a white band on his head. He carried an old guitar case. He stood at the corner and sat the case down, and at space leaning against it. He extended an arm and thumb, hitching for a ride. I saw him nod at me slowly. I looked up into the sky. The moon red as blood. Properly spooked, I choose to just move through the intersection when the light turned green. I looked in the mirrors, but the man had vanished, and suddenly, as he appeared, and when I looked up, the moon had changed to its normal pale gray.
See, that just sounds like again, a scene out of something like Supernatural or Vampire Diaries. It sounds too Hollywood. But that's just me.
I mean, in my own opinion, I think I knew a couple of truck drivers. I've heard some horror stories. But some like this, I think he took it a little too far to make it more people scared. Of course, it's a horror type of thing. I mean, I'm sure he probably did see something, but I'm sure not to the extent of the moon turned blood red and turn back to pale gray as it normally is. I mean, it was believable up to that point of the moon turned blood red. Really dude, you have to go that extended that far. But hey, we weren't there. No judgment. We're no judgment there whatsoever. But I believe that maybe he did see something during the night. I mean, there's a peaking hour. Legends to have it at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's when supposedly spirits tend to be at its peak. But what do I know? I'm just a guy.
I'm not the dude on Ghost Whisper who stands in an air vent and goes, "Man, see these goosebumps? There's a ghost here."
Oh.
Oh my gosh. Some of those are so bad. Like, one dude literally was standing under an air vent and got called a dumbass by the guy showing him around the historical haunted place.
I think it's called Ghost Hunters. There you go, Ghost Hunters. And I remember that I remember like watching it on YouTube or something, and it's like called him like a big old dumbass, and you see like the vent up top above him. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's been turned into a huge meme.
Ghost Hunters, man, they're just a fucking joke in my own opinion. But with those type of shows, I feel that not all of it is real, because the simple fact they need to have ratings and need to have some sort of episodes. I mean, I'm sure it takes an extremely long time to... I know they stay overnight and they try to compose it into 1 hour show, but I'm sure not everything that they catch is all 100% real. I'm sure they had to put like some sort of effects to it and shit, But one thing that really interested me, which I'm sure I feel it's like a real thing, is Bobby Mackey's world. I'm sure you heard of that.
I have not.
Really?
Really?
Bobby Mackey's is one of the biggest hotspots for spirits. There's been like people again need to get exercised on, like exorcists, and people freaking getting like seeing spirits, seeing having scratches on the arms and shit. Man, seriously, it's like big ass hotspot for spirits and shit. It's actually a really good. They had 2 episodes on there. It's actually really pretty good.
I'll have to give it a look.
It's really cool. I always wanted to explore there and shit. But I think it's not much of a hotspot anymore because they apparently the owners blessed the building and shit. So I know there was another episode that they went to that their daughter recently passed away, and they went to that family and tried to get some closure and shit. So you have like a spirit box and shit like that playing, saying, "I love you, I miss you, I'm surrounded by family members and friends and family," and stuff like that. It was like kind of a pretty cool episode to watch too. So
I mean, it sounds interesting. Is there only 2 episodes?
there's more than 2 episodes of Ghost Adventures. That's like on Discovery Channel and shit. But those are only those
That's
2.
the first one you were talking to.
But Bobby, there's supposedly like 3 of them, because I know they had like a fan base going through the Bobby Mackey's music world, and they actually had people recording and people freaking getting scratched, feeling like cold spots and seeing apparitions and all that shit. And the 3rd episode that aired, that Zach actually got possessed, and the priest was with them saying, "Get the book, pretty much you need to do a freaking needs to get exercise right then and there around the spot because he was about to get possessed."
Yeah, but I can go up to anyone and say, "Hey, wear this costume, be this priest, say this."
Yeah, but
and they'll pretty much do it. there's not really anything saying that it was a real priest. Like, I'm sure someone could Google and make sure this priest is credible and all that, but I just feel like a lot of possessions are hoaxes, something made by the Vatican to get people's faith.
Right.
I don't know. Possession, demonic stuff. I've never really seen into that, really. But, like...
It's really hard to... Like, with that type of stuff, with evil spirits and stuff like that being on Earth, I'm sure there is. But people getting possessed and stuff like that, that's kind of iffy. You know?
Yeah. Because then you're saying there is religion, there's not aliens.
Right.
Or maybe there is aliens and God created everything.
Right.
Who's to say?
Right. I mean, one of my buddies of mine, what I went to school with, he actually told me, we got into the subject of ghost stories and shit, and there's a haunted asylum that was around in Marshfield. I need to think of the name. I don't remember the name on top of my head.
My mom and I went to go take a normal scheduled nap like we normally do, and I woke up and the curtains were closed, but behind the curtains there was a hand waving to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never said anything because they never believed me anyways. Or there was one about a boy who was 14 who just moved into this new home, a big new home. And there was a basement that they converted into a workspace eventually for their father. But he found a diary with pages ripped out of it that was from 1840.
Really?
And he found the diary and heard creaking, so he grabbed the diary and ran, shut the door and locked it behind him. This was when it was still empty. And he was starting to read out of it. He got the girl's name. I can't remember. It's somewhere in Reddit's horror stories thread. But said her name, said that she was turning 8 tomorrow and that it was the diary was her birthday present, and that the year was 1840 and blah 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 blah. But then he's like, my dad's coming, I gotta hide the diary in the closet, I'll read some more to you guys tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then I couldn't find any more threads.
Damn. But I'm calling the Will County Asylum. There's a name for it, but it's well, my buddy said it before it got torn down. His friends decide to go investigate it and to see what the hoopla was all about. I know you.
Hoopla!
I knew you were going to say that. And hoopla, hoopla.
SpongeBob stuck in your head now.
Yes. Edit. Bloopers.
Oh man, that's gonna be half the episode.
No, it's alright. So anyways, he went to the Will County Asylum and with him and his buddies, and he told me he remembers going there and remembers walking out. That's it.
Nothing in between?
Nothing in between.
Well, was he drunk and just not remembering?
No.
Or...
No drinking.
No?
Nothing. Him and his buddies never drank beforehand. They drank after, obviously, but not beforehand.
Something traumatic or horrifying that happened that maybe he's blocking?
Maybe when his friends told him that he was acting fine, the second he walked into the building, he looked like he was lost. Like his eyes were kind of like glazed over.
So
like,
you're saying possessed?
Basically, yes. And he was walking through the corridors like he knew what he was going, kind of like just like nothing scary. He wasn't going like how people always say. No, he was just yeah, exactly. So he was just kind of like walking, kind of looking around, and of course they heard shit, but they never went to descriptive what happened to him because they're mainly concerned about him, you know. So they maybe sat there for maybe an hour and they left. And that was it. And of course he was fine. He's like, when he walked out, he's like, what happened? We're walking out now? They're like, dude, you were like, we don't know what the fuck happened to you. You were just like out of it. You didn't talk, you just looked around. Just walked with us, that's it. You know? They were kind of freaked out about that. I've got like a little article here I've read like 5 times over when I was interested in this place. It's called The Creepy Small Town in Wisconsin with Insane Paranormal Activity. It's onlyinyourstate.com. So up in the middle of the state, near Wausau and Stevens Point, cites Marshfield. This small town used to be home to a large asylum, and folks say is one of the most haunted areas in the whole state. Marshfield straddles 2 counties, and in 1909 was picked as the home for Will County Asylum, Insane Asylum. Everything is true about this. The asylum and the surrounding buildings have been much interest to ghost hunters. Multiple groups have recorded what seems like voices, and one group captured a picture that seems to show a spirit looking right into the camera. The asylum no longer exists, but a company stands where the most structure once was, and the chronicle and various spirit and paranormal sightings have occurred here. According to their website, although the current property owner spent 3 years dismantling, demolishing, and raising the old, rotting, condemned structure, many landmarks still exist. As with many mysterious, old, and some haunted buildings, the history of the site still exists and its legend and lore. There are rumors of patient deaths as well as worker who committed suicide on the property. The spirit that was seen the most is a young girl with long dark hair. She would usually appear in windows in the tunnels. One worker who said to have seen the face of the devil in the boiler room when he went in to confront it. He never came out. Based on records and what equipment was found in the asylum, it's not hard to understand that there might be unresolved issues from those that may have died here. The barn and surrounding farm was worked by patients at the asylum. They were paid for their work, but the farm provided food for everyone at the asylum. The barn still stands today. I'm not kidding, it still stands today.
So the barn is haunted?
I don't know if the barn is. That's the thing. We don't know. It's closed off. Anyways.
So unless you illegally go check.
I'm sure people have. But anyways, there's actually a long tunnel that connects the old asylum building with the barn across the way, and that's one of the pieces that still exist. It floods easily, but it was through this tunnel that patients trudged to work on the farm. The tunnel is said to be haunted not only because it's one of the last remaining structures, but because it represents the forced labor they endured. The asylum isn't the only place in town that has ghost hunters interested. St. Joseph's Hospital has more than 100 years old, and one of its wings is said to be haunted. Multiple patients and employees report having seen a man in black robes going in and out of rooms. I guess you can say it's a hidden lore slash fiction and non-fiction with the Wood County Asylum.
I'm just thinking, a man going, like, through walls or opening doors?
Probably through walls.
And this information was gathered through a former worker?
Yeah, former workers, and of course records and all that stuff. So.
Oh, well, I'm just thinking, because if it's inmates passing stories along, then of course they're gonna be walking through walls.
Right.
But, no, like, in my head, someone working in an asylum that figures that they can feed their murder addiction or something of that nature feels that they're curing the world of this burden or something like that, and they're just hiding themselves with a black cloak going around murdering. That's kind of what comes to mind, but that's just me trying to put logic behind horror stuff. See, we have a couple of haunted asylums up here, but it's nothing I've gone and checked out because they're to the point where they need to be condemned. Like, they're gated off and everything, and do not enter signs everywhere.
Right.
But for what reason? Because the building's coming down? Because a riot happened and they moved everyone?